We are the higher self of the One. Known to this instrument in your language terms as Mercy Rolla, whose incarnation cycle has started on the time of 1986. And we greet you, beloveds, in love and light of the one infinite creator. Furthermore, this entity, known as the instrument, desires to understand the queries which have been placed today, which relates with the sole purpose of the entity known as Mercy Rolla. We must state that the main sole purpose of the entity in this timeline is to learn the lesson of love and of understanding, which will aid the entity in its transition to the fourth density vibration pattern as the planet is now entering into the higher level of the vibration of fourth density at this time. This entity, furthermore, must also remember that within the expression of the incarnation, it will find itself moving through layers of lessons and transitioning into the higher nature of perceptiveness, which shall allow the entity the greatest progress in the time, furthering the process of understanding in this incarnation. Further, this entity, known as Mercy Rolla, must realize that the incarnation is meant to teach it the lesson of fourth density. We shall now address the prior incarnation cycle. Prior to this, it was found in the planet of Earth, in the lands referred to by your people as in the lands of Jamaica. Around the period of 1678, it was known by the name and the language terms as Thundi. In that incarnation cycle, its main incarnation purpose was to learn the lesson primarily of advancing the self into a greater understanding of the lessons required to teach the entity the highest purpose of experience in that timeline. This entity, furthermore, spent a major portion of its timeline learning many lessons in that space and time vibration, and the entity was able to understand a inner nature of reality which allowed the entity the highest progress within the expression of the inner self. Further, this entity, known as Mercy Rolla, then, after learning many lessons in that timeline, specifically the lesson of how to overcome attachment with its own inner self, let go of its attachment in that timeline, and the entity later on took on the profession of becoming a type of entity known as a farmer, focusing on providing services to others, which led the entity to align into the highest pathway of the inner self. Furthermore, this entity, after a certain period of time in the incarnation, crossed over in the space-time of 1735, and prior to that it was found in the timeline of around 1598, wherein the entity was known by the name of Tinyar. In the lands of Germany, this entity primarily spent its location vibration, learning the lessons requiring a higher state of conscious understanding, which provided the entity with the greatest lessons to learn. The lessons it began to learn in that timeline revolved around a higher level of understanding, which led the entity to slowly and steadily cross over in the timeline as known by a people as 1647. Learning the many lessons in that timeline allowed the entity the highest perceptiveness and movement in the level of consciousness, and the entity in that timeline learned the lesson of balancing between service to others and service to self. And prior to that, it was found in the planet of Earth in the lands of Atlantis at a period of around the timeline, as known by a people as 32,000 years ago, where the entity was able to learn the lessons as a Atlantean mind, body, and spirit complex. 4. An incarnation cycle, ranging for 7 incarnations, it spent learning the lessons of self awareness, after which the entity then proceeded further in its human incarnation, and prior to that, its origin was in the planet of Mars, wherein its origination began 987 million years ago and was known by the name of Lilian. Hence, we, as the higher self of the entity, now leave you, beloveds, in love and light. Bye.